day we wake up, we go to work, we come home, we eat and sleep. But every day we are also presented with information and images, overwhelming us through computer and TV screens, through the news and movie theaters.
Miss Tate, who starred in Valley of the Dolls, was 8 months pregnant and was found in a bikini-type nightgown with a rope around her neck attached to the body.
Well, DNA evidence in the murder of JonBenet Ramsey pointing suspicion toward a possible intruder.
Derek Odell is a sophomore from Virginia Tech. He's actually calling us from Montgomery Hospital. He's been shot in the arm.
With the censorship lines being blurred and the R ratings on every other movie, is the average person becoming desensitized to raw imagery in today's media? Specifically, are horror films pushing the limits of a world already dealing with huge problems? And how far will the graphic nature go?
When I get to the bottom, I go back to the top of the slide, where I stop and I turn and I go for a ride, till I get to the bottom and I see you again. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Do you want me to love you? I'm coming down fast, but I'm miles above you. Tell me, come on, tell me the answer. Well, you may be a lover, but you ain't no dancer. Look out, help the skeleton, help the skeleton, help the skeleton.
In the 50s, B-horror movies were a new phenomenon, with the science fiction subject matter in movies, such as Creature of the Black Lagoon, The Day the Earth Stood Still, and Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Filmmakers used ideas with aliens or creatures to scare the viewers, rather than focusing on murder. Movies of that time depended more upon the imagination rather than gore visuals. During the 50s, film directors were working with current events, making movies focus on the idea of space travel, bringing possible horrors of what we might find out in space to the big screen.
No, you gotta get out of here, please!
Fast forward from the 50s to the 70s, when B-movies had progressed to slasher films. With the subject matter changing from a science fiction focus to a bizarre murder plot, the film directors began to display a bloodier, more grotesque side to film, allowing the audience to see a darker side to cinematography.
My name is Alex Thompson, and I work as a motion picture set painter. The most recent is Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland, Stuart Little, Grey's Anatomy. No, my parents were pretty against us watching and filling our minds with a lot of violence and blood and stuff like that, so I think the first ones were like Friday the 13th, but I had to sneak in with friends outside of the home. They would never rent or watch something like that, so I didn't really get really into that. And I really don't like that. I mean, I like the adrenaline rush to a certain degree, but I'd rather laugh or watch like an action film than a horror or slasher kind of movie.
Movies like Black Christmas, The Exorcist, and The Last House on the Left portrayed horror stories of traumatic events with unsettling endings. These films were playing off an era with real-life serial killers and tragic Hollywood deaths. With the Sharon Tate murder still haunting the public, these slasher films pushed families to lock their doors at night and sleep with one eye open.
To avoid fainting, keep repeating to yourself, it's only a movie. Only a movie. Only a movie. Only a movie.
Jump 30 years later to the modern day, a new millennium with special effects playing a huge role in the movie industry, primarily in horror movies. Between the R ratings and extreme gore, scary movies were taken to a whole new level.
From a movie producer standpoint, society has changed, and unfortunately people are really into gore, and that's what sells is blood and violence, so they're looking to make money. But I think for the sake of the purity of the film, keeping it as it was, I mean, you could do a lot of like scary and fright stuff with the way you film something. Psycho was like, could keep you on the edge of your seat without there being like blood and guts every frame. So I mean, it depends on what you're going for, but I can understand from the producer's standpoint, but if I was to remake a horror film, I'd want to keep it probably true to a certain degree.
Movies like Hostel, The Ruins, and the Saw series have utilized the new techniques provided in order to continue to shock the viewers. But does this high dosage of graphic content have a negative effect on our society, especially in the youth? Are these horror movies desensitizing us to the point where we are numb to the real-life tragedies of society?
Games have just begun.
Because of some of the studies that have been done to show the impact of the violent contents of movies on children and how they relate. Okay, they relate in a, not only do they seem to relate in a more aggressive way by just hitting, they relate in an aggressive way in like gossiping, excluding, being unkind, cruel maybe. The other thing about the gory movies, you know, it desensitizes people. In other words, if you were not seeing that, you might be more sensitive. The more you see of that violent, gory movies, I think the less that you become desensitized, and it just doesn't seem as bad for some reason, and that's scary.
But with these movies being box office hits and bringing in millions every time, there are no signs of this phenomenon slowing down. With each new movie comes another opportunity for the youth to be exposed to violence.
Anytime you fill your mind with something, it kind of desensitizes you. It's like somebody who goes into the army and for the first time might be really shocked by killing somebody or seeing somebody dead. After months, it's just like, you know, swatting a fly. So it does, I think, movies do the same thing. It can desensitize you to actual violence.
So I'm sure they were in the psyche at somewhere in some people, but they're now being massively distributed, and I think there's more of it because there's more. How would I say? More people are being exposed to this violence.
Warning: the film you are about to see contains graphic nature. How many times have you seen this line before viewing your favorite movie? With the generation starving for more gore, each movie creates a bloodier hunger for the youth. And when will this ever change? And is this exposure a bad thing? Are we numb to real-life tragedies as a result? You decide.
Come on closer, I wanna show you what I'd like to do. You sit back now, just relax now, I'll take care